The restaurant was quiet in the late afternoon. The kind of quiet that felt fragile, like glass that could shatter if someone spoke too loudly. Naomi Carter moved between the tables with practiced grace, balancing plates and glasses like they were extensions of her hands. Her smile was gentle but tired. The smile of someone who had learned early that life didn't give kindness freely. Naomi was 27, working double shifts at Hanul Garden, a small Korean restaurant tucked between a pawn shop and a dry cleaner. She wasn't Korean, but she had worked there long enough to understand the language. She never told anyone. It wasn't something she advertised. It was something she carried quietly, like a secret shield. Her mother had worked in this same restaurant years ago, before cancer took her away. Naomi remembered sitting in the corner booth as a child, listening to the staff talk and laugh in Korean. She learned by listening, the way children learn songs. After her mother died, the owner kept Naomi on, first as a helper, then as a waitress. That afternoon, the bell above the door chimed. 3 men walked in. The air changed immediately. The first man was older, tall, with silver hair and a dark suit that fit him like armor. His face was calm, but his eyes carried storms. Behind him were 2 younger men, tense and watchful. Naomi didn't need anyone to tell her who he was. Everyone in the neighborhood knew about Victor Marino, the Mafia boss. People whispered his name like a warning. Naomi's heart pounded as she approached their table. But when she looked at Victor, she didn't see a monster. She saw something else. Something heavy. Something tired. He met her eyes briefly. And in that moment, she saw loneliness. Not cruelty. Loneliness. Water, one of the younger men said coldly. Naomi nodded and brought their drinks. Her hands trembled slightly, but she kept her composure. 10 minutes later, another man entered. He was Korean, sharply dressed, confident. He bowed politely to Victor and sat across from him. Beside him sat a translator, a thin man with nervous eyes. Naomi stayed nearby, pretending to clean another table. The Korean man spoke first. His voice was calm and respectful. But the translator's English was different. Colder. Harsher. Naomi frowned. She understood every word the Korean man said. And the translator was lying. Her heart began to race. She glanced at Victor. His jaw tightened as he listened. His eyes darkened with anger. The translator continued, twisting respectful words into insults, turning peace into provocation. Naomi's stomach dropped. This wasn't just a mistake. This was betrayal. And if Victor believed those lies, someone was going to die. She froze, gripping the edge of the table. She wasn't supposed to interfere. She was just a waitress. Invisible. Safe. But her mother's voice echoed in her memory. Doing nothing when you know the truth is the same as helping the lie. Naomi's breathing grew shallow. She looked at Victor again. He wasn't evil. He was being deceived. And suddenly, she knew. She couldn't stay silent. Naomi's feet felt heavy as she stepped forward. Every instinct told her to walk away, to stay invisible, to protect herself. But she didn't. "Sir," she said softly. Victor looked up slowly. His guards stiffened instantly. The translator stopped talking. The Korean man looked confused. Naomi swallowed hard. Her voice trembled, but she forced the words out. "Your translator. He's lying to you." Silence crashed over the table. Victor's eyes narrowed. Dangerous. Cold. "What did you say?" He asked quietly. Naomi's heart pounded so loudly she thought she might faint. She could die for this. But she nodded. "He's not saying what the man is actually saying," she whispered. One of the guards stepped forward. "You better be very sure." Naomi turned to the Korean man and spoke in Korean. His eyes widened in shock. He responded quickly, relief flooding his face. Victor watched them carefully. "Translate," Victor ordered the translator. The translator hesitated. Sweat formed on his forehead. Naomi spoke again in English. "He says he came to offer partnership. He says he respects you. He says he wants peace." Victor's expression shifted. Slowly, dangerously. He turned to the translator. The man's face turned pale. I was just." Victor raised one hand. The translator fell silent instantly. Victor looked back at Naomi. Why? He asked. She blinked. Why would you risk your life to tell me this? Naomi didn't know how to explain it. She simply said, because it was the truth. Victor stared at her for a long moment. His eyes searched hers, looking for fear, looking for lies. He found neither. Only honesty. Only courage. He turned back to the Korean man and nodded respectfully. The Korean man bowed deeply. A moment that could have ended in bloodshed instead ended in peace. Victor stood slowly. The translator collapsed into his chair, shaking. Victor looked at Naomi again. Come here, he said gently. She hesitated, but she walked forward. Up close, Victor didn't seem terrifying. He seemed human. He studied her face. What's your name? Naomi. He nodded. Naomi, he said quietly, you saved more than a deal today. His voice softened. You saved lives. Naomi felt tears sting her eyes. She hadn't expected gratitude. She had expected punishment. Victor reached into his pocket and placed something on the table. Money. A lot of it. Naomi shook her head immediately. I don't want it. Victor frowned slightly. Why not? She whispered, I didn't do it for money. Victor looked at her differently then. Not as a waitress. Not as a stranger. But as something rare. Something he hadn't seen in years. Someone good. Victor returned to the restaurant the next day. Alone. No guards. No suits. Just him. Naomi almost didn't recognize him without the armor of power. He looked older. More fragile. He sat in her section quietly. She approached him carefully. Coffee? She asked. He nodded. They sat in silence for a moment. Then he said, You're not afraid of me. Naomi considered the question. I was, she admitted. Were. She nodded. But now I think you're just a man. Victor gave a faint smile. He hadn't heard anyone speak to him like that in decades. Everyone feared him. No one saw him. Not really. My daughter used to talk like you, he said suddenly. Naomi blinked. Used to. His eyes filled with pain. She died. Naomi's heart broke at the quiet sadness in his voice. She was 12. He stared at his coffee. After she died, I stopped being human. Naomi didn't know what to say, so she simply sat with him. Sometimes presence was enough. Victor continued softly, Yesterday, when you spoke, you reminded me of her. Naomi felt tears in her eyes. He looked at her carefully. You risked everything for someone you didn't know. Naomi whispered, My mother used to say truth matters, even when it's dangerous. Victor nodded slowly. My daughter used to say the same thing. They sat in silence again. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. For the first time in years, Victor felt something warm in his chest. Hope. Before he left, he said, You deserve more than this place. Naomi shook her head gently. This place gave me everything when I had nothing. Victor respected that. As he stood to leave, he paused. You gave me something too. Naomi looked at him. He said softly, You reminded me who I used to be. Weeks passed. Victor kept coming back. Not as a Mafia boss. Just as Victor. They talked. About life. About loss. About regret. Naomi never asked about his crimes. She only listened. And somehow, that changed him more than fear ever could. One evening, Victor arrived looking different. Lighter. Calmer. He sat down and said, I ended it. Naomi frowned. Ended what? He took a deep breath. My empire. Her eyes widened. I'm done, he said simply. All of it. Naomi couldn't believe it. Why? Victor looked at her. Because you reminded me I still had a soul. Her eyes filled with tears. He slid an envelope across the table. She hesitated before opening it. Inside were legal papers. Ownership papers. For the restaurant, he said. Naomi froze. I bought it. Her hands trembled. It's yours now. She shook her head. I can't. You can, he said gently. You earned it. She began to cry. No one has ever given me something like this. Victor smiled softly. You gave me my humanity back. This is nothing compared to that. She stood suddenly and hugged him. He froze. He hadn't been hugged in years. Slowly, carefully, he hugged her back, like a father holding his daughter. For the first time since his child died, Victor didn't feel empty. He felt whole. And Naomi, who had once been invisible, now stood as the owner of the place that had saved her, not because of power, not because of fear, but because of truth, because of courage, because one waitress chose to speak when silence would have been safer, and one broken man chose to listen. Sometimes, the smallest voice can save the darkest soul, and sometimes, the most dangerous man in the room is just someone waiting to be reminded how to be human again.